Great. And we are recording. Again, by way of introduction, my name is Paul Blanchard. I'm the managing director of the Mandino Group. A little bit about myself. I spent a career as a credit consultant, and then just not finding my way in corporate America, I decided to go be an entrepreneur. I went into real estate investing, and then eventually my plans didn't agree with the economy and had myself in a bit of a tight spot, and so I had to bail. I went to work for a university after that. Felt strongly it was important I go back and finish my education. That led to one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I was called up and my vice president said, are you renting or own your house? And I was still financially recovering, so I said, I'm renting, but that's a bit of a loaded question. He said, great, we're getting on a plane to DC. You're on a short list of people we're considering to manage the Jack Welch Management Institute, to be the director. And so I was like, wow, okay, let's do this. And then a couple weeks later, I found out it was a really short list. I was the only one on it. And then a week after that, I'm in a boardroom with the greatest CEO of all time, Jack Welch, who led General Electric on paper to some of the greatest success in the history of American business, let alone his leadership and management skills that people still pay him six-figure bills just to get an hour of his time to come speak with them about what he does. I got to work closely with him for several years, helping build his executive MBA program. We turned that into one of the best programs in the world, ranked and high quality, disrupting that marketplace and how professionals should learn in an MBA environment. And then I felt it was time for the next chapter of life. And so I called my father, who just happens to be the CEO of the Mandino Group. And that engaged a 4 to 6 week discussion and campaigning for me to move back from Washington, D.C. and come here and work with him, to partner with him on what we really feel we can build here after what we've learned. And I say we, I've been a part of the company from a distance. I cut my teeth on these principles for the last 15 years. And it's so fun tonight to spend a little bit of time with you, walking you through some of the incredible history of not just the company, but what's led to the creation of what we have today. For context, for confidence, and for an opportunity to teach you a few things to leave you with this evening, hopefully with a slightly better perspective and an opportunity to be a little more inspired. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight, so let's go ahead and get started. First, by way of introduction, a lot of companies talk about their incredible history and how long they've been around and all these different things. But when I think about our journey, and as I've really spent a lot of time over the last more than a year now, being on board full-time as a partner in this organization, I start to piece incredible pieces of the puzzle together. Now, the first one starts back in the 16th century with Galileo Galilei. Sounds kind of strange to go that far back, but Galileo was a philosopher and a mathematician, and a brilliant, considered one of the most brilliant philosophers and mathematicians of all time. The father of many scientific concepts, but specifically known for his concept about infinity, which he didn't create, but he certainly advanced tremendously. Now, infinity and infinite concepts are very, very interesting. They started to challenge the understanding of how we live almost all of our life in less than, equal to, or greater than. Those are the parameters and the rules for almost everything that we do. There's something that's good, there's something that's better, and there's something that's the best. But when you get into infinite concepts, it becomes a completely different set of rules. For example, if you read his book, The Two Sciences, that he published in 1643 or something like that, 1637, I think, where he dictates a conversation between these two mathematicians talking about how in a line, there are infinite number of points in a line. So if each line has infinite points, then does a shorter line have less points than a longer line if they both have infinite points? And it turned into this whole huge enlightenment and understanding of there's more out there than what we inherently live our lives in boundaries and finite concepts. I have $20, I give you 5, I have 15 left. So much symbolically in our life and literally in our life is approached with this finite understanding, and it's limited. You got less than, equal to, and greater than. And so he started to unlock the door of the concept of infinitudes. Then we move into the 19th century with George Cantor. George Cantor was a German mathematician, brilliant man, who took the concepts of infinity that Galileo started to unlock and put a formal math around it. It's called Cantor's transfinite calculus. They knew that there weren't these restrictions of less than equal, or that there couldn't be these restrictions of less than, equal to, or greater than in infinite concepts. But then George Cantor removed the restrictions with mathematical equations and mathematical indexes and all these different things that really started to formalize the concept of infinitudes. Then we fast forward a little bit further into the 20th century. Robert S. Hartman, who was born in World War I in Germany, watched the rise of the Nazi regime. And if you read his book, which is incredible, he was so in awe and intrigued by how efficiently the Nazis organized evil. Those were his words, organized evil, and started being curious as to whether there was something you could glean from that systematically and scientifically and soundly to be able to organize good, to be able to create happiness, so that it didn't feel like chance. And so he took Galileo's understanding of infinitudes, Cantor's transfinite calculus, and after many, many years of research, created the formal science of axiological mathematics, which today allows us to scientifically measure the way that people think, which is unbelievable. Where all these ethereal and out there and superfluous conversations about infinity and eternity could be defined to some extent, and even more importantly, it could be measured. And then fast forward a little bit more. 1967, Og Mandino, a writer for Success magazine, writes his first book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Since it's sold over 25 million copies. Let me take you back to the night that it was written. It's a story about a camel boy who wanted to become the greatest salesman in the world, Hafid. And so he goes to seek out who he considers at that time the greatest salesman in the world. Well, Og wrote the beginning of the story, the end of the story, but then there's this gap in the middle of the book, because when Hafid meets the greatest salesman in the world, he finds out that there are 10 scrolls that are the wisdom of the ages, that are the keys to becoming the greatest salesman in the world. And that he receives a sign to gift them to Hafid. And so Hafid takes them. And then that's where the story opens up to what are the 10 scrolls. Well, Og had what you would call writer's block, very frustrated and grumpy, as Betty recalls, and then went to work and wrote the 10 scrolls in one night. An unbelievable, unparalleled, one of the most inspirational pieces of literature written in the last several centuries. Just incredible principles that took intuitively development and progress, personally or professionally, to a whole nother level, talking about our other mind, talking about our habits and our habits of thinking and the things that really matter, which weren't closes and ambition and dream boards and all these different things. They were incredible concepts in a very deliberate order that laid out, and over the last 50 years, we've watched neuroscience validate these inspired writings in so many ways. It is crazy. Then let's fast forward a little bit more. Dave Blanchard, in his darkest hour, lost everything in 1990. Built one of the largest medical management practices in Southern California, had his own band, was living the life. I mean, the life. I was very, very young, so I don't remember as much about the life as I'd like to, but lost it all, and then eventually had to shut everything down and leave San Diego, take his family. We came here to Utah and spent the next 10 years paying back over $1 million in debt. Refused to file bankruptcy, maintained his integrity, and worked through it as an incredible savant in script writing and editing and directing television and film. several years into this journey, at a very difficult time in his life, he was introduced to the greatest salesman in the world, and it changed everything. And this set so many things into motion that, as you can see, started centuries ago, which resulted in the introduction to Og Mandino, which resulted to writing a feature film script for one of Og Mandino's favorite books, The Christ Commission, that he wrote. And Og Mandino passed away in 1996. And so Dave never got to meet him. But meeting Betty, she was so impressed with the way he wrote that she offered the rights to the greatest salesman in the world. And the birth of the official Og Mandino company, the Og Mandino Group, happened in the year 2000. Fast forward 15 years into that, we see the pieces of Galileo's Infinitudes, George Cantor's Transfinite Calculus, Robert Hartman's Formal Science of Axiological Mathematics, and the incredible revelatory breadth of the 10 scrolls and all of Og Mandino's work come together in the Og Mandino Group with two of the most revolutionary and monumental creations in the history of personal and professional development. The first one was the intentional creation assessment. Now, Dave created Og Mandino's Principles for Success and just went out to compete as just another coaching program. Great principles, powerful stuff. Og Mandino, incredible brand, one of the most beloved speakers and writers of all time, but something just it wasn't enough. There was something missing. So Dave went back to the drawing board, and the measurement kept coming back to him. There had to be a way to measure where people were at. So stepping away from having a separately branded product of something so similar to what was already out there and feeling there was something so much deeper, that's where Galileo and Cantor and Hartman came into play. At the Hartman Institute at the University of Tennessee, the introduction to the formal science of axiological mathematics, and an opportunity to take that to its next evolution. Galileo set so much groundwork, then Cantor, then Hartman, and then Dave, powered and partnered with the principles of Og Mandino, took it to a whole new level where today we have a scientific tool that measures the way you think as accurately as a thermometer measures the temperature outside. And it only takes you about 10, 15 minutes to do it, which is fantastic for my ADD. You have an opportunity to jump in, and you can't manipulate it. Trust me, if you've taken it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're going to take it, then you'll see here shortly where it's strange words and phrases. You don't know what we're looking for, which is exactly what allows us to objectively measure your value system, your thought processes, your habits of thinking that have been learning for probably hundreds of thousands of hours through your life. They're not who you are, but they are the number one indicator of the actions you take, the emotions you feel, the results you create, the decisions you make come down to the influence of your thoughts. And so if we're going to dive into really making a difference, we better be able to know exactly what we're up against and be able to clearly and concisely show our clients exactly what they're up against. We discovered incredible things, strengths that weren't being utilized. We found out, and this is kind of in my own words, we don't have any weaknesses. We have strengths that can get out of control. We just over-focus in certain areas, or we under-focus in certain areas. And then we find a way to bring them into alignment and balance. And when this happens, not only do we have a first-class ticket to success, but we're going to want the success we create when we get there. I've seen so many people ambitious and driven in their lives that once they get there, they didn't know what they were in for. They didn't know the collateral damage involved or what they were going to have to sacrifice that was sometimes realized too late, the most important things in our life to get it. Whether compensating for the wrong things or in it for the wrong reasons or going about it the wrong way. The things we're unlocking with this assessment with over 60,000 clients that we've engaged over the last 15 years to get so clear around these thought processes and the way they impact us in our relationships, the way they impact us in our friends and family, and our businesses, and our success, and our bottom line, and our peace of mind. We could actually find a roadmap for results. and not just the way to create results for the elite percentage that are able to do this intuitively. And then we see them do it and they write a book about it. And so what do? We try and go do what they did rather than become the person who will naturally do what they did. Become the person that will naturally have what we want. You can't do that until you get to this level. And the intentional creation assessment unlocked that. And we continue to discover new things about it every day. The second most monumental creation through the culmination of that timeline we just went through were the discovery and the definition, the principles and the practices of the 6 qualities of an intentional creator. When Galileo started to dive into infinity and how it was getting people's minds just spinning, like, how does that make any sense? These intrinsic and infinite concepts, like a human being, infinite potential, intrinsic value. It wasn't anything that we could put our hands on. It wasn't anything we could define because we were living in a finite existence and a finite understanding. But it was something we could feel. We could feel infinite concepts. It would resonate with our souls. It resonated with Og's. And that's where he wrote from in the 10 scrolls. And we've distilled them, we've clarified them and defined them as the 6 qualities of an intentional creator, because we feel this intrinsic value, but it almost feels accidental. And when we try to do it on purpose, it wisps away because we don't understand the rules. We don't understand the boundaries involved and the principles involved in being able to create in this infinite space, to create intentionally, to be an intentional creator. There are 6 qualities involved, and they stem all the way back from what Galileo started to unlock, and the formal science of axiological science is clearly defined. There are thought processes driven behind each one of these qualities. Connection, how to have empathy, how to connect with another human being in a way that is so rare and yet so empowering and so passion-driven that relationships, business and personal, become a completely different perspective with a completely different level of productivity and cooperation. Mental creation. We have an amazing gift up here. Incredible. All of us have an amazing gift that neuroscientists call metacognition. We can step back from our lives, step back from ourselves, and think about our own thoughts, think about our own lives, go through scenarios that haven't even happened yet. It is amazing what we can create up here in mental creation. But we've discovered over the last 15 years that there are epidemics in the world of using this amazing gift destructively. And most people don't even realize that they're doing it. And some lucky few power through and hang on long enough in spite of some of these challenges to create success, but the rate of attrition, unless this is understood and utilized, is staggering. But the opportunity to live life when this is used constructively, when these gifts are turned on and optimized, it's unbelievable. And there are very real principles and measurements and practices to doing that on purpose, doing that intentionally. Physical creation, this present, this tangible reality we have. There are guidelines and ways to be here right now on purpose. And then miraculous things that can occur when certain principles are followed in how you engage in the now, in the present, in the tangible reality you have given, and the way you problem solve and the way you approach tasks and structure and the different things that you need to accomplish. Disciplined thinking. Systems are so important. Authority has its place. Openness to new ideas and analytical thinking. All these things are so important. And yet, similar to mental creation and even the way that connection has been manipulated, it's such a challenge for some people in their lives because we can get caught up in the systemic side of systems thinking. where it is all or nothing, right or wrong. Someone could have a great idea, but if 2% of it is wrong, we will tear it to pieces. We'll be so connected to our own ideas, we have to be right, and we don't even understand why. And understanding the principles behind disciplined thinking can unlock an amazing gift to problem solve and to see things so quickly and so clearly, and to drive your business to inspirational heights, because the energy you needed to use these gifts in this area were being wasted compensating for every other challenge that we just figured was just part of life. That's just what we do. We just need to rise above it and ignore it. You just power on, cut the emotion out of it. Are you kidding me? That was maybe the best option before we could actually get to this place and get to this place quickly. And then we started uncovering two incredible discoveries and falling in love with the journey. Life becoming a journey, not a destination, of our dreams becoming targets and not places we would vacation to in our minds, but never be able to actually realize in our lives. Falling in love with where we're currently at, finding out that what most people want is usually right behind what they're resisting most. And then the amazing discoveries of self-esteem. Do you need a great self-esteem to be successful? No. Do we attack and manipulate and charge your self-esteem in our coaching programs? No. This is a barometer showing us the effects and the efficiencies of the other 5 qualities. This is the order that we coach in right here on this scroll. We start with connection, we end with self-esteem. Connection lays the foundation for everything. Self-esteem shows us how we're doing. How authentic, genuine, and real are we? You can get caught up in confidence. You can get caught up in being bold and owning you, and those are all important elements of self-esteem. But what it really boils down to, if you really want to create the success that you deserve, it is about finding out the deep intrinsic definitions to what it really means to be genuine, authentic, and real. No need to impress, no need to fix, no need to pretend. And that is a major challenge. We want to tear the cover off the ball, not to scare or indict anyone, but to encourage, to empower, to enlighten, to actually be able to have functional and practical awareness, not just so we can feel good about not having what we don't have, not so that we can just continue on with some kind of function within our dysfunction, so that we can create results. With that said, I want to make sure that we spend just a little bit of time tonight, because you've given up some of your evening, which is so precious, talking about a few of these principles a little bit more that we've touched on. We're just going to focus in one of the 6 areas of an intentional creator, and that is connection. I've been in sales for a lot of my life. I love sales. The beauty of sales at its core. Has it been manipulated to this day? Yes. Has it been put into logistical, strategic conversations so that it can be applied to any product regardless of quality? Yes. But forget all that. Wipe it away. At its core, the art of connection and the art of sales is one of the most beautiful things in this life for creating relationships, for learning, for being able to expand our business, everything. It is so important. Connection is everything. And agape love is essential. In Og Mandino's 10 scrolls, the second scroll, after he lays the foundation for where you're headed for the rest of your life in scroll 1, scroll 2, where he kicks right into the practicality of what you need to focus on first. He calls it the greatest secret to success in all ventures is love. And we've been able to discover with amazing clarity the love that Og was referring to in the Greek language is called agape love. Now, the Greeks are smart enough to have multiple words for love, so it wouldn't be as confusing as it is for a lot of us on this call. Because for a lot of us, love has some really interesting contexts. But here, agape love is actually defined as a heightened sense of awareness. It is amazing clarity. You can see another human being and understand who they are and see their intrinsic, infinite value and understand your own so that you can trust your intuition. You can trust your empathy, be able to step into their world, to be able to talk to them for the right reasons. Because not only did Og say that love, agape love, was the greatest secret to success in all ventures, but he also said that without it, you are no more than a peddler in the marketplace. Now, he wasn't trying to be derogatory to peddlers, but he was certainly using that particular instance as a derogatory remark, as something you would not want to settle for. Love is essential. I listened to Jack Welch for years as a mentor, as a leader of our organization, and he would speak from stage in front of people who paid $5,000 to get into Radio City Music Hall to listen to him speak for an hour, to a number of different venues, to speaking to our students every term, which was awesome. And he would always talk about caring about people. You have to care about your people. If you don't love people, you have no business being a leader. If you don't love people, I might be so bold as to say you have no business being on this earth. Okay? Learn. It can be learned. Love is not a feeling. It is a state of mind, and one that we can reinforce and build. The feeling comes after. Sometimes it can be driven by the feeling first, and then we learn to define it. But in so many instances, especially agape love, is something that can be learned. We can learn to start caring about people again. And this can feel mushy, or this can feel wussy, or this can feel like it's going to take too much time. And at first, sometimes it does. But as it becomes natural, as we learn the principles, the laws that guide this principle, we reach a level of life that is unlike anything we've experienced before. In efficiency and precision and speed and confidence, as well as quality and connection and beauty and intimacy. That's where this can take us. From the bottom line to the opportunity to connect with human beings and touch their souls. This is essential. Walls of resistance. Scientifically measured, the average human being withholds 40% of their cooperation and productivity in a non-adversarial relationship, like a friend, let alone an employee. Can you imagine what their wall of resistance looks like? Everyone has a wall of resistance, whether it's built with the bricks of a facade, built with the bricks of apathy, built with the bricks of bravado. There's so many different things that we can use to decorate our wall, but we all have a wall of resistance. And it's what separates our real, genuine, authentic self from the rest of the world. We let it out in certain ways, some of us more than others. But when we start to have this heightened sense of awareness of agape love, we start to see people, we start to understand them, which is essential, and we'll get to that in a second. But we don't just see them, we see their wall of resistance. Now, sales like closes and finding the pain, these are all manipulations to circumvent this wall, to tunnel under it, to take a rope and tackle and get over it, or to pound right through it. Og talked about it in Scroll 2. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life, but only the unseen power of love can reach the hearts of men. Agape love. See their wall of resistance. It is so important to understand that a lot of your assumptions about why someone is the way they are, why they just cut you off on the road, or why they just don't get it, or why this or why that, are oftentimes skewed because you're looking at them through their wall of resistance without seeing their wall of resistance. This is the person who you thought was a jerk and you'd never want to talk to again, that you find out they were up all night in the hospital with their spouse who's diagnosed with cancer and on their way out and has very little left in energy and focus, and their wall of resistance is massive. You didn't get a chance to see them because you didn't realize that what you were actually experiencing was their wall. This is a huge piece to connection. Are you seeing them, or are you experiencing their wall? And don't let the two get convoluted, because if you can see their wall, guess what? You can learn to bring it down. You can learn to step into their world, and you don't do that with closes. You don't do that with strategic conversations. You don't do that with an agenda. That the only way to do that is to throw up on their wall, and that's disgusting because it gets splashed back in your mouth. We've all done that. We've all either done that or experienced that. We call it commission breath. Okay, it smells like commission breath. An agenda. Hey, long time no talk. How are you? Da, da, da. So what I was really calling about was, right? Look for the walls of resistance. And one of the ways we do that is we listen. We leave our agenda on the bench. It isn't that the agenda isn't important. It isn't that showing them a great opportunity you might have, or talking to them about your business, or in an interview to consider hiring them. It's not that those things aren't important and don't need to be decisive and precise and clear. It means that you need to get behind their wall of resistance before any of that can really occur at a high level. And so you need to listen. You need to show up for them in a way that is so rare. It's something that we couldn't possibly dig deep enough into tonight to allow you to start mastering this, but hopefully you can take some of this in and it will start to make an impact immediately. Just these simple principles we're talking about tonight to unlock productivity and cooperation and bring their walls of resistance down and start listening to understand, not listening to respond. There's been books written about selling and communicating, and people have started to figure out over the last couple of decades that questions are fantastic. Questions are a great way to sell. They're a great way to communicate. But then questions even became a tactic. We listened to respond rather than listened to understand. We weren't waiting for our opportunity to tell our story, for our opportunity, oh, I know what you're talking about. Ooh, let me tell you about. No, we listened to understand. We were quiet. We weren't a factor in the conversation. Why? Because we were in their world, caring about them. And how often had they been able to experience that? We've spoken on hundreds of stages in front of thousands of people. You could probably count on two hands the number of people that could acknowledge that they clearly remember the last time someone really showed up for them in their life and really listened without trying to fix them or problem solve or give advice, and just listened. It is unbelievable, miraculous, and unmeasurable to see what can happen in your business, in your relationships, in your life when you listen to understand. You'll know you're listening to understand because you'll notice things you didn't notice before. You'll get intuitive feelings that might even spook you a little bit. I can't ask them about that. Well, they might be going through that, but I don't know. You have been uniquely prepared. It's what creates your empathy and intuition, your challenges, your problems in life, the things that have cut you deep and left scars are there to prepare you to serve others unlike anyone else could possibly serve them, and to notice them and ask questions no one else would ask because you are listening to understand and trusting your empathy and intuition. I hope that this can start to have kind of a malleable influence on your perspective of how you're supposed to be connecting with people in your life. Because if you have a different set of rules for how you connect with your spouse in communication and listening, and when you have an idea to express, and you have a different set of rules for your clients and a different set of rules for your kids, those silos are going to destroy you and exhaust you. There is no work-life balance. I'm sorry to tell you, there's life. And you should rejoice about that. Stop trying to balance the two, because what that really means, you're trying to apply a different set of rules to the two of them. You're trying to show up as one person here and one person there, and this is relevant here, but this isn't relevant here. It is all life, and it all requires love, a heightened sense of awareness, stepping into someone's world to bring down their walls of resistance, and listening to them to understand, because that will lay the groundwork for a relationship, whether in business or a personal relationship, that will be able to go to depths and heights unlike you've ever experienced before. It doesn't make life any easier, it makes it worth it. It doesn't make relationships any easier, it makes them worth it. It makes them so much more fulfilling in business and in your personal life. Now, that's a lot from me. I apologize, okay? A little bit soapboxish tonight. But with that said, I wanted you to hear from a few of our fans, a few of our clients, a few of our partners, a few people, just a handful that have experienced what we have to offer. So you're not just listening to me the whole time.
Through a good friend of ours, Scott Irwin. When I was starting my business, Sales Nexus, he came over for dinner one night with his wife, and we were talking. He's been a very successful entrepreneur, and he hands me a book, handed me The Greatest Salesman in the World, and says, I read this book not too long ago, and it really changed my life, and I think it'll really help you with starting your business. So we didn't get into a whole lot of detail at that time, but then
Nope. Pardon?
Through and says, I read this book not too long ago, and it really changed my life, and I think it'll really help you with starting your business. So we didn't get into a whole lot of detail at that time, but then I did read the book, and boy, it just lit me on fire and just got me very excited about some ways of looking at things that I had never understood before. And next thing you know, I'm talking to Scott all about it. And he's giving me CDs and then introduced me to Dave Blanchard, and I started coaching with Dave shortly thereafter, and boy, that just really changed everything. This assessment and and learning to take what the assessment does to engage with your team on a different level allows you to unlock all of that unaccessible potential of all of those employees. So it's not just, let me find out who's on board and who's not and get rid of the ones that aren't, or take my 20% that are really engaged and maximize their effectiveness and productivity and things like that. It's way more than that. It's taking that other 80% that aren't really that engaged and getting them engaged, and the power that unlocks.
So Craig is the CEO of a company that provides sales software solutions, whether CRM or marketing tools and other things. An incredible individual who grabbed on to the greatest salesman in the world and then ran with it, and it led him to us. And we've been able to be engaged with him for several years now, and incredible to watch what it's done for the culture of his company and the bottom line and the results. That's what matters. But what matters is because his people feel that they matter. And the way he hires is completely different. The way he engages them is completely different. Next, we'll jump down to Kim O. Kim is an HR consultant, an incredible professional that I met at the beginning of this year, and also makes clear to everyone she is a competitive bodybuilder. She's beautiful, 5'2". I'm 6'5", so I can say she's tiny, but she is incredible. She's amazing and has grabbed onto these principles, had a wonderful experience with us, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that real quick.
I think that there's, just like anything, when you look at what your options are, you may find things that sound similar in terms of programs or coaches. The thing that I feel most strongly about with Mandino Group is that because I'm a product of the product, I've seen the results in my own life, in my own sales career, and now in my coaching practice. And so I think for me, it's hard to argue with results. And I think that it's done in a very practical way. And some of the other training programs that I've been a part of have been a little bit too, for lack of a better word, fluffy. It feels like too much thinking and not enough doing. And I need someone who will help me practice and get results.
And then finally, we got Kim H. Kim is a business development expert and leads national development efforts for a major company that works with health clinics across the country and works in some of their major markets. Another incredible individual that sought out understanding that there had to be something else out there. There had to be something different, and an incredible story. And I wish we had more time to hear more from her, but she's having incredible experiences in her career and her business. And as she would tell you, in a very male-dominated business that she's in, and feeling like she needed to overcompensate for the success or work that much harder and be that much harder in her conversations, and even being told by superiors that to not make friends with the people she works with and that she needs to maintain her superiority with them, and so on and so on. And she has completely shattered that paradigm. And we were honored to give her the permission and the principles to do that. And the growth of her business and her success has been exponential and so fun to watch. So hear a little bit from Kim.
You know, at the very least, it's a tax write-off to get involved with something that's going to benefit your business. And the worst thing that could happen is that you stay where you are. And the thing is, that would be tragic. And if you're engaged in the idea of changing and growing as a business owner or a person who is responsible for your own future, there's nothing to lose by getting involved and raising your level of awareness about really the way we can not just change our own success, but equip others to be successful. I don't think there's anything to lose. I think it's a great opportunity. And I made a financial investment to get started with the Mandino Group, and it was significant for me financially. And what I'll tell you is that I would make that same decision again with great certainty, because it has been so powerful of a way for me to change and impact my own life and my career. So not just has it changed the way I do business. I definitely am more effective as a business leader and making more sales, but it's actually changed the way I parent, and I have little kids that are 5 years old and 10 years old, and it's changed the way I engage my relationship with my spouse and made it so much better. So it's going to be a win-win for anybody who gets involved, for sure.
And finally, we've got Idris from the East Coast, a network marketing professional, spent over 21 years working with a Fortune 100 company, an incredible individual who is looking for what was next, having seen a lot of what was out there, having experienced some of the good and some of the bad, and then having his experience with us.
I recommend it to everyone that I can get the conversation about it in front of. I recommended it to my son. I recommended it to one of his classmates. And I recommend it to anyone, to everyone. We really don't know what we are up against in many instances unless we have an assessment like this that can show us this is what's going on. These are the things that you are doing. This is how you are thinking that are affecting your outcomes. Some of your thoughts are supportive, but in many ways your thoughts may be going contrary to what you intend to do. So this assessment will let people know where they are. And everyone has some challenges. Everyone has some baggage. I think I have more than most, but everyone has some. It will let each person know these are the things that I need to deal with in order to make my situation, my life, my profession better. I would recommend it to anyone.
So just a small handful of some of the people that we've worked with, partnered with in the recent past, to hear their perspective. Because, I mean, as creative or as eloquent as I want to try to get, that's the most important, is the fact that results are happening for a lot of our clients. And the ones that are creating incredible success are the ones that are willing to do the work. And now they're seeing the way they can start doing the work differently and understanding themselves and how they're involved in the process and how to connect with people unlike they ever have before, and how healing that can be, let alone how invigorating and passion-driven that can be as well. With that said, I want to thank everyone for being on with us tonight with an invitation. Take an assessment. If you've already taken one, that's fine. Skip step one. But go to intentionalcreation.com. Take an assessment. If you haven't taken one, use code WEBINAR when it asks you for an IC code, That way we can make a complimentary upgrade for you automatically. You'll log in and take it, and you'll see the free results right away. But within 24 hours, well, within 1 business day, your assessment will be upgraded. So log back in 24 hours or 1 business day later, and you should see the full assessment where you can click on the bars and listen to the 3 tabs that pop up and learn more about your thought processes. And then email us, contact@intentionalcreation.com, to schedule a complimentary consultation. This is 15, 20 minutes where you'll jump on with me or one of our coaches and answer some of the questions you've got about the measurements that really caught your attention. And that coach or myself will provide some really substantive, focused principles and questions around what catches our attention in your assessment. And that really opens the door for the opportunity, if desired, to then follow up and explore some opportunities. We have a lot of ways that we impact life, that we impact business, whether it's our totally committed retreats that are one of the most, if not the most incredible experiences that 2 people in love can have, all the way to our leadership training, our sales training, to our personal coaching, a myriad of different applications and focuses that we can bring this science and these principles to create massive success as we've engaged with tens of thousands of clients and creating real results, and not the kind where they need the next seminar and the next book and the next piece the next year and the next year and the next year, but results and trajectory in perpetuity, because they got themselves on a clear, defined path of how to become the person that would naturally create what they wanted to have in life, rather than continue to beat their head against the wall of the Nike philosophy of trying to just do it. So please, I invite you to take an assessment. If you've already taken one and you want to schedule a consultation, email us. If your assessment hasn't been upgraded, email us. And for your attendance tonight, we'll provide a complimentary upgrade to that, complimentary consultation, and explore any of the options that we have to find out ways that it can be worth it to you, ways to break through where you're currently at, or to add that much more speed to where you're already headed. It was a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm going to hang on the line. I'll turn off my video so that you don't have to just sit here looking at me typing. But any questions that you have, please go to the Q&A, type them in there. I'd be happy to address anything that you initially need answered right now tonight. If not, email. And I'll be monitoring that as our staff and team are going through that mailbox as well. And anyone that needs to connect with me personally, I'll make sure that happens. But thank you so much for being here tonight and for your time. And hopefully we provided some insights to make tonight of value for you. Thank you.